Okay, this is going to be our last lesson for Chapter 4. Lesson 4.5 is going to pick up where Lesson 4.4 left off and talk about solving inequalities similar to 4.4, except instead of an equal sign, you have an inequality symbol. All right, so an equation in the form of ax plus b is less than cx plus d can be solved using the same operations to both sides of the equation as you did when you solved ax plus b equals cx plus d. All right, and this quote is actually from 4.4, but I thought it was important to reiterate it. Anytime you want to solve a problem, it's often helpful to, as a problem-solving strategy, to take that problem and turn it into a simpler one. Okay, that's what we're doing when we do the easy button. Okay, that's also what we're doing when we turn this into this and then solve for x. Okay, so it's a really helpful problem-solving strategy. Okay, the one thing we want to just remember is A, B, C, and D are all known quantities, and x is the unknown that we're solving for. Okay, so let's do one of these. So here's Mr. Korb this time. No more Twizzlers with Miss Lovett. Mr. Korb and the Environmental Project Mini-Course Group are going to plant a couple trees on campus. They're going to plant a beech tree that starts at 12 feet tall. They're also going to plant a maple tree that starts at 4 feet tall. Well, apparently beech trees grow faster. Beech trees grow slower than maple trees. The beech tree, even though it's taller, it's going to grow half of a foot per year. And the maple tree, which grows a little faster, is going to grow at 1 foot per year. Now, having done this before, you should recognize that the constant for the beech tree is 12. The variable is 1/2, and it's the coefficient on x, the number of feet, a number of years that it's growing, rather. Okay, so 12 plus half of a foot for each year, years being x. Okay. Alrighty, maple tree has a constant of 4. In it, we don't actually write the 1, but there's an implied 1 right in front of the x, and the x is the number of years. So 4 plus 1x feet, or 4 plus x. Okay, so these are our two equations for those situations. 12 plus 0.05x and 4 plus x. Okay, so now we know the trees have been planted and we know how fast they're growing. Well, any of you who know anything about Doctor Who know that you can time travel. If you find a little blue phone booth, you can get in it and you can travel back and forth. Who knew? Okay, so we're going to get in this blue phone booth and travel into the future. And when we travel into the future, we're going to find that the beech tree, which started out taller, is still taller than the maple tree. Now, eventually, the maple tree is going to get taller, but right now, the beech tree is still taller. And you're like, gee, how far did I travel? Because the beech tree is still taller. Well, that's what we want to figure out. What's the maximum amount of time that we traveled? Because if the maple tree was taller, then we would have traveled far enough to have this 1 foot per year to catch up and go beyond the original tallness of the beech tree. Cool? So let's see how far we traveled. Okay, so in word problems, I tell you always write down what you know and what you need to figure out. Okay, so what we know is that this is the equation for the beech tree. And we know this is the equation for the maple tree. We also know we've gone into the future, and we also know that in the future, the beech tree is still taller than the maple tree. What we need to figure out is how far did we go? All right, so we take the beech tree's equation and we say it's greater than the maple tree's equation, because we said here in the future the beech tree is still taller. Okay? Now, like we did in 4.4, we're going to take ax plus b is less than cx plus d, and we're going to turn it into an easier problem of ax plus b is less than c, and then we're going to solve for x. Okay? So, all right. So, 12 plus 0.5x is greater than 4 plus x. Now, remember in the last 4.4 we said, look and see which one of them is smaller, either ax or cx, and get rid of the smaller one. By doing so, you will avoid a negative coefficient on the x. Okay, so if we look at this equation, the smaller one is the 0.5x. So we're going to get rid of 0.5x by subtracting 0.5x to both sides. When we subtract it on the left-hand side, we're left with 12. Okay? I'm sorry, add it. Add it on the left-hand side. Okay. No, I lied. Subtract it. Subtract it on the left-hand side. We subtract it on the left-hand side, we're left with 12. We subtract it on the right-hand side, and we have x minus 0.5x. And the combining like terms, we have 0.5x on the right-hand side. Okay? So we're now at 12 is greater than 4 plus 0.5x. Okay. Once we subtracted 0.5x from both sides, we're in the form of ax plus b is less than c. And we can kill Bill. Bill is 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. And we're going to get 8 on the left side. And the 4's are going to go away. And we're just going to have 0.5x on the right side. Okay? So now we're in the form of ax is less than b. And we've got to annihilate Anna. Anna is 0.5x. So we divide both sides by 0.5. And we're going to get x on the right side. And 8 divided by 0.5 is 16. So 16 is greater than x. Or you could say x is less than 16. Those two things are the exact same thing. So we have traveled something less than 16 years. 15 years, 14 years, we're not really sure exactly, but definitely less than 16 years. And therefore, if you were 13 years old, okay, and you traveled less than 16 years, you'd be still in your 20s. Okay? Cool. Alrighty. You could do that same thing graphically, just like we did in 4.4. We showed stuff graphically. Okay? So, still what you know is that the beech tree is 12 plus 0.5x. And the maple tree is 4 plus x. You still know you went into the future. And you know the beech tree is taller. What you need to figure out is how far did you go? So this beech tree graph is the equation y1 equals 12 plus 0.5x. This maple tree equation is y2 equals 4 plus x. Okay? And if I put those into my graphing calculator, I would see those two lines cross right there at 16. Okay? Which, I know this is getting a little messy because I wrote on top of my table, but you can see that's right there. At 16 years, both of those trees are actually, honestly, the same height. They're both 20 feet. So at the most, you were traveled at 16. Now, we said you actually traveled less than 16 because we said it was less than, the maple tree was still less than the beech tree. Okay? But at 16 years, they're both 20 feet. After 16 years, the maple tree starts getting taller than the beech tree. Okay? So at greater than 16 years, the maple tree is taller. At less than 16 years, the beech tree is taller. Okay, now this is a totally different situation, but they give you this in the book too. They say, well, you could have something where you just give it a word problem. It's like 5 times a number is less than or equal to 3 times the same number. If you were given a sentence like that, just turn it into an equation. And I did this with colors to make it show up. 5 times a number is less than or equal to 3 times the same number. Okay, so you see how those colors all lined up is how I turn that set of words into an equation. So we're here. Okay, that's basically that form. Doesn't happen to be a B or D this time. So we're just going to eliminate either AX or CX, whichever is smaller, so we can avoid those negatives. Okay, the smaller one is 3x, so we're going to subtract 3x from both sides, and on the left side we have 2x, and the right side is 0. Don't let that freak you out. It's okay. Divide both sides by 2, and on the left side you have x, and the right side you have 0 divided by 2, which is 0. It's okay to divide 0 by a number. That's no problem with that. So x is less than or equal to 0, which means that the solution to this problem is either 0 or a negative number. That's okay. Okay, but you do have to check these things. So if we want to check this guy, and our answer said x is less than or equal to 0, then we have to check it twice. One time we have to check x is equal to 0. Okay, so we pick a number, we take 0, and we put it into the original equation. 5 times 0 is equal to 3 times 0, and that's true. 0 obviously equals 0. So that part of our answer is correct. Step 2, we have to check that part of our solution. Okay, so the x is greater than part we also have to, or less than part, we also have to check. So pick a number less than 0 and check it, like -4. Put -4 into both sides. 5 times -4 is less than 3 times -4, that's our original equation, and we get -20 is less than -12. And that's true as well. So our solution checked both on the equality as well as on the inequality. And that is 4-5.